What if everything you've been told about respect is a lie? They told you to be kind, to be liked, to be gentle. But look around, no one listens to the kind. No one obeys the gentle. We live in a world where power bends only to one truth. Respect is never given freely, it's taken, and it's held through fear. Before they ban this lesson, listen carefully, because once you understand this, you'll never be manipulated by fake virtue again. The modern world has made fear a forbidden word. They say leadership should be built on love, but love without fear creates weakness, and weakness invites disrespect. You can see it in our politics, our workplaces, even our homes. People crave order but reject the very force that sustains it. So tonight, we will uncover the truth. Why every form of true respect, from the army to the throne, is always built on fear. Everyone talks about respect, but few understand where it truly comes from. They think respect is earned through kindness, through charisma, through being liked. But that's a myth told by the weak, a story designed to keep you obedient. The truth is simpler, darker, and far more effective. Respect is always built on fear. People listen to kindness when it benefits them. They obey fear when it protects them. That's the first law of human nature. When fear enters the room, attention follows. Think of the people you respect most, not just admire. Respect. There's a difference. Admiration is soft. Respect has edges. You respect them because somewhere inside, you know they could make your world uncomfortable if you cross them. It's not about physical power. It's about psychological presence. The power to make others pause before they speak against you, that hesitation, that second thought, that's respect born from fear. Machiavelli wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both." And yet, people misquote him. They think he meant you should be cruel. He didn't. He meant that love is unreliable. Love is emotional. It shifts like weather. Fear, on the other hand, is loyal. It doesn't forget. It doesn't fade. It lingers in the mind, reminding people where the limits are. When a ruler governs through fear, his people obey even in his absence. When a father commands respect through firm authority, his children listen even when he's not in the room. That's not oppression, that's order. Fear creates boundaries, and boundaries create stability. Society has spent years telling you that fear is wrong, that it's toxic, that true leaders don't make people afraid. But look deeper. Every structure of power on this planet runs on controlled fear. Governments enforce laws not because everyone is good, but because everyone fears the cost of breaking them. Armies don't march on love. They march on discipline, consequence, and command. Even your own body runs on fear. Fear of pain keeps your hand from the fire. Fear is not evil. It's functional. It's nature's way of maintaining order. A world without fear would be chaos, a world where everyone does what they please, where promises mean nothing, where lines can be crossed without cost. Respect cannot survive in that kind of world. Because respect is not born from equality, it's born from hierarchy. And hierarchy, whether in a family, a business, or a kingdom, only stands when there's consequence for defiance. Look at history. The leaders who were loved but not feared, they ruled softly, and they fell quickly. The leaders who were feared but not hated, they endured, they controlled, they outlived their enemies. Because fear gives power longevity, it silences rebellion before it starts. Even in your personal life, you can see it. The friend who everyone likes is often ignored. The one who commands respect, who sets boundaries, who doesn't tolerate disrespect, is rarely tested. That's not by accident. That's because people instinctively respect those who could punish them, even if they choose mercy instead. True power doesn't shout, it doesn't threaten, it simply exists, and everyone around it feels the consequence of stepping too close. Fear creates that invisible wall of authority. It says, "You may not like me, but you will not cross me." And that is the foundation upon which all lasting respect is built. The tragedy of the modern world is that it confuses fear with cruelty. They are not the same. Cruelty seeks pain, fear seeks order. The purpose of fear is not to destroy others, but to maintain the structure that keeps everything from falling apart. Think of a lion in the wild. The lion doesn't roar to be loved. It roars to be obeyed. The herd doesn't adore it, but it respects the boundary that roar creates. Without that boundary, the jungle becomes chaos. Humans are no different. Civilization, for all its lights and luxury, still runs on primal instincts. Strip away the politics, the niceties, the moral speeches underneath it all. Every social order, every institution, every relationship depends on a delicate balance of fear and respect. Love brings people close. Fear keeps them in line. The wise know how to use both, but they never forget which one truly holds the world together. People like to say love conquers all, that if you're kind, if you care enough, if you lead with your heart, people will follow you. But that's not leadership. That's hope dressed as strategy, because love is emotional. It's unstable. It burns bright, and then it burns out. And anyone who builds their authority, their respect, their power on love alone builds it on sand. Love depends on feelings. Fear depends on structure. Feelings shift. Structure endures. The same people who love you today can turn against you tomorrow, and they won't even call it betrayal, they'll call it change. But fear doesn't change. Fear is constant. Fear is predictable. When you lead through fear, not terror, but disciplined authority, you remove emotion from the equation. You make respect mechanical, reliable, measurable. The one thing a wise ruler understands is that love is a gift, but fear is insurance. Think of how many leaders, bosses, or even parents lose control because they tried to be loved first. They think, if I'm kind, they'll follow me. And for a while, it works until someone more charming, more generous, or more fun comes along. Suddenly, the loyalty shifts, because loyalty built on affection is always for sale. But when respect is built on fear, it's not about who's more likable. It's about who's untouchable. Fear anchors people. It sets clear limits. It tells them where they can move and where they cannot. Love invites movement. Fear enforces stillness. Love may inspire, but fear guarantees. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He said that love is held by a bond of obligation, a bond that men, being selfish, break whenever it benefits them. But fear, he wrote, is maintained by the dread of punishment, and that dread never leaves a man's mind. That's what makes fear so reliable. It doesn't ask to be fed. It doesn't beg for validation. You don't have to keep proving you're worthy of fear. You just have to show once that disobedience has a cost. After that, the memory does the work for you. People will always choose love when it's safe, but they'll obey fear when it matters. Because love comforts, fear protects. Love asks for trust. Fear enforces boundaries. And boundaries, not emotions, are what keep the world in balance. Look at history's great rulers, the ones who built empires that outlived them. They didn't chase affection. They commanded discipline. Their people may not have loved them, but they respected them, and in times of crisis, respect is worth more than love. Love makes people loyal to you when things are good. Fear keeps them loyal when things fall apart. Even in the smallest corners of life, your job, your relationships, your reputation, the same rule applies. The moment people stop fearing the consequences of disrespecting you, They start to test your limits. They take more, demand more, and when you finally say enough, they call you harsh. That's because they got comfortable, and comfort breeds contempt. Fear, however, kills comfort. It reminds people that respect is not optional. Love is like a flame, bright, warm, but unpredictable. Fear is stone cold, solid, unchanging. The one who rules through love must keep feeding the fire, must keep performing to keep affection alive. But the one who rules through fear can stand in silence, and still the room will listen, because fear doesn't need to speak, it only needs to be understood. Love can make people follow you out of admiration. Fear makes them follow you out of certainty, and when you're trying to hold power, certainty is everything. The modern world celebrates love because it feels good. It flatters the ego. It paints power as something soft, inclusive, democratic. But real power has never been democratic. It has always been hierarchical, and hierarchy requires something stronger than emotion. Emotion can be manipulated, fear cannot. A person can fake affection, but they cannot fake the look in their eyes when they know the cost of disobedience. That's why even the most beloved leaders still rely on laws, on enforcement, on the silent understanding that there will be consequences. They know love brings people in, but fear keeps them there. When you remove fear, you remove structure. When you remove structure, you invite chaos. Love cannot control chaos. It tries to comfort it, to reason with it, but chaos only respects power, and power speaks in the language of consequence. That's why the wise never choose between love and fear. They understand the hierarchy between them. Love decorates the throne, but fear keeps it from being overthrown. Love can open the door, but fear guards it. Love can bring peace, but fear maintains it. In the end, love is beautiful but fragile, it bends with every breeze. Fear, however, stands where love collapses, patient, immovable, and absolute. If this message struck something inside you, don't scroll away and forget it. They want you distracted, numb, obedient. But you've just seen through the illusion. You now understand the law that governs power, respect, and survival. Don't let this lesson disappear into the noise. Share it before they bury it. Speak it before they silence it. Hit that subscribe button if you refuse to live weak. Turn on the notifications so you don't miss what comes next, because this is only the beginning. The world rewards those who see through the lie, who embrace strength over softness, order over chaos. Be one of them. Stand firm when others fold. Lead with clarity. Command respect. And remember, they can ban the words, but they can't ban the truth. The truth lives in those who are brave enough to speak it, and feared enough to be heard. We live in an age that worships appearances. The world wants to look good, not be good. Everyone preaches virtue, kindness, equality, but behind every smile, behind every moral slogan, there is calculation. They tell you that respect is earned through goodness, that authority should be gentle, inclusive, and fair. But that is a moral illusion, a fantasy designed to make you obedient while someone else holds the real power. In reality, the world doesn't run on kindness. It runs on consequence. People don't follow the pure of heart, they follow the ones who can deliver results. They may applaud morality in public, but they bow to strength in private. That's the unspoken truth of political reality. Fear is the invisible engine behind order, behind loyalty, behind respect itself. But society hides this truth because it threatens the illusion. They've built the illusion that power can exist without pressure, that leadership can survive without fear. Every civilization, every religion, Every government has wrapped power in morality to disguise control. They say it's about justice, about fairness, about love for the people. But scratch beneath the surface, and you'll find the same mechanism: consequence. The moral illusion is the story we tell the masses so they obey willingly, without realizing they are obeying out of fear. Look around you: the laws, the rules, the social codes. They are all enforced not because people agree, but because they fear what happens if they don't. And yet, everyone pretends it's about virtue, about doing the right thing. But tell me, would people still be honest if there were no punishments for lies? Would they still pay taxes if there were no threat of fines? Would nations still obey treaties if there were no armies to enforce them? The answer is written in every era of human history. Without fear, morality collapses. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He saw that rulers who try to be moral above all else become prisoners of their own ideals. Because morality is fragile, it bends under pressure. Political reality, on the other hand, is ruthless. It rewards those who can balance appearance with consequence. The prince must appear merciful, but be ready to act mercilessly. He must appear just, but never hesitate to do what is necessary to preserve his rule. Morality wins applause. Reality wins survival. That is the tension every powerful figure faces: to wear the mask of virtue, while keeping the blade of fear hidden beneath the robe. The illusion works because people want to believe in goodness. They crave the comfort of thinking their leaders, their bosses, their parents act out of love. But beneath that surface, everyone responds to the same ancient language: power and consequence. The crowd respects mercy only when they know it could be replaced with punishment. They value fairness only when they sense the danger of injustice waiting behind it. The paradox of power is this: morality without fear becomes weakness, but fear without morality becomes tyranny. The master of both holds the world in balance. He speaks softly, but his silence carries weight. Think of how societies maintain order. They use words like justice, ethics, law, but those are merely the moral masks of power. Justice is the name we give to organized fear. Ethics is how power convinces people it's righteous. Law is fear written down in polite language. That's why people obey even when they disagree, because the illusion of morality makes obedience feel noble. And those who refuse to play by the illusion are branded dangerous, radical, evil, not because they are wrong, but because they threaten the structure that depends on that illusion. The wise see through this game. They understand that power wears two faces: the visible face of morality, the hidden face of fear. Both are necessary, but only one truly governs. The politician shakes hands and smiles for cameras, but behind closed doors, he negotiates through fear of exposure, of loss, of consequence. The general speaks of honor, but commands through fear of disobedience. The priest preaches love, but enforces doctrine through fear of damnation. It is not hypocrisy, it is the nature of power itself. Because fear is the skeleton beneath the skin of morality. Without it, the illusion collapses. Without it, people stop listening. That is why those who truly understand power never fall for appearances. They know that virtue alone commands admiration, but fear commands action. And in the political reality of this world, action, not admiration, decides who rules and who is ruled. Something strange has happened to the modern world. Somewhere along the way, we decided that fear, the very thing that built civilization, is now evil. We teach children that fear is wrong, that it's oppressive, that good leaders don't make people afraid. But look closer. The world didn't become softer, it just became dishonest. We didn't remove fear, we just hid it under 1,000 smiling masks. Modern culture has declared war on fear. It tells you that you should only inspire love, that strength is toxic, that discipline is abusive. The result: leaders who can't lead, parents who can't command, and nations that can't enforce their own values. The moment we stripped fear out of respect, we created a generation that confuses freedom with chaos. Everyone wants to be equal, but no one wants to be accountable. Everyone wants respect, but no one wants to earn it through strength. The old world understood something we've forgotten: that fear isn't the enemy of peace, it's the price of it. You don't maintain order by begging for love, you maintain it by defining consequence. Fear used to remind people where the line was drawn. Now that line has vanished, and what remains is confusion: children who ignore parents, workers who mock their bosses, citizens who laugh at their leaders. Everyone's proud to speak, but no one's afraid to be wrong. That's the chaos born from a world that outlawed fear. Machiavelli warned about this centuries ago, though he spoke in the language of princes and power. He said that love without fear weakens authority, because love depends on choice and choice is fleeting. But fear creates consistency. It commands even when affection dies. In the modern world, we rejected that wisdom. We replaced fear with friendliness, strength with comfort. And now we wonder why no one listens anymore. Society calls fear cruel. But look at the irony. The same people who condemn fear still live by it. They fear judgment, cancellation, rejection. They fear being called wrong, fear being seen as harsh, fear standing firm when others demand softness. Fear didn't disappear, it just changed direction. Instead of fearing consequence from those above us, we now fear disapproval from those below. The powerful no longer command, they apologize. The rulers no longer lead, they beg to be liked. And respect, the old kind of respect that held kingdoms together, has evaporated. What we call progress has become a paradox. We removed fear to make people feel safe, but in doing so, we made them unstable. Without fear, there are no boundaries. Without boundaries, there's no respect. Everyone believes they can say anything, do anything, challenge anyone, and yet they all secretly long for direction. They crave authority, but they've been taught to despise it. That is the modern dilemma, a world that needs leaders but destroys them the moment they assert control. Look at how society treats firmness now. The boss who demands excellence is labeled tyrannical. The parent who enforces rules is called controlling. The teacher who disciplines is called harsh. But let those same people fall into disorder, and suddenly they cry out for structure. They want the very fear they once rejected, the quiet strength that restores respect without asking for approval. This fearlessness we glorify isn't courage, it's blindness. Courage is feeling fear and mastering it. But the modern world teaches denial. It says all fear is oppression, all strength is dominance, all order is unfair. The result: weakness disguised as virtue, a society that calls softness kindness, and chaos freedom. Yet deep down, everyone still respects the same force, the one that doesn't flinch, the one that stands firm when others crumble. The truth is, fear was never meant to enslave, it was meant to guide. It's the invisible contract between power and respect, a silent understanding that every action has a cost. The old kings understood it. The generals understood it. Even nature understands it. The wolf leads through fear, and the pack follows in harmony. Remove fear, and the pack tears itself apart. Humanity, for all its progress, remains part of that same design, but today's world hides from its own reflection. It wants control without consequence, loyalty without discipline, respect without fear. It wants to reap the order that fear creates while pretending it was never needed. And so, our leaders grow weaker, our families grow fractured, and our society grows loud, but hollow. Everyone is speaking, no one is listening. Because fear, the one thing that commanded silence and attention, has been buried under a lie, that being feared is evil, and being loved is enough. But the world has never truly run on love alone. It has always required something heavier, the steady, cold awareness that respect without fear is just performance, and love without consequence is just noise. So now you see it, the truth that they've tried to bury under generations of moral softness. Fear is not the enemy of respect. It is the foundation of it. From kings to commanders, from fathers to teachers, from the smallest family to the largest empire, everything that endures because someone had the strength to be feared. Love inspires loyalty only while it's easy. Fear commands loyalty even when it's hard. That is why every great leader has walked the fine line between mercy and consequence, between compassion and control. The modern world will tell you to reject fear, to be endlessly agreeable, endlessly soft, but softness without authority is decay. When no one fears disobedience, respect dies. When respect dies, chaos takes its place. And that's the world you see today: loud voices, weak wills, no order, no respect. Because we forgot the ancient balance. We worship love, but we abandoned fear. We praise virtue, but we mock strength. And now, the structure that once held civilization together trembles under the weight of its own denial. Fear, when understood, is not cruelty. It's order. It's the invisible hand that keeps humanity from devouring itself. The wise don't use fear to destroy, they use it to preserve, to remind the world that freedom without consequence isn't freedom at all, it's collapse. So remember this: respect that comes from love may feel good, but it fades. Respect that comes from fear lasts. The one who is loved can be forgotten. The one who is feared is remembered, and that is the lesson they will try to ban, because once you understand it, you can never be controlled by false virtue again.